Today is the feast of Christ the King. Over the past couple of weeks, I've had a particular delight because I've discovered that I can listen to the plays written by Dorothy L. Sayers called The Man Born to be King. They were first broadcast in the 1940s during the Second World War, and then again a couple of decades later, and I think it's that later recording that I found on YouTube. You could have a look at them as well. You just open up YouTube and type in The Man Born to be King. There's about 12 plays of about 40 minutes each, and they record the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. And it's wonderful. It's lovely to hear the voices of the various disciples coming from different parts of, so some of them sound like Yorkshire people and some sound a bit posher. The Jewish religious leaders, they've got a really posh voice. They're Jerusalem folk. And then there's also the Romans. And, well, there's just a whole company of people. And Jesus as well amongst them. Listening to the plays has brought some of those gospel stories so well known back to life again. And I've made new connections and got new insights into them. I've just reached the trial of Jesus. So I think things are going to get a bit nasty from now on. Are you the king of the Jews? Asked Pilate. Who gave you that idea? Responds Jesus. He doesn't seem so keen on the title. The Jews, of course, were well used to the idea of a king, looking back in the glory days to King David. And the Romans, too, were used to the idea that the Jews had a king. Pilate had to try and get on with King Herod, the ruler of Galilee. Jesus, though, seems a bit ambivalent. Are you the king of the Jews? Well, yes and no. Let's start with the word king. We're not much used to kings, at least not those with any kind of power or authority. But today, in church, the Feast of Christ the King, we want to celebrate something about Jesus' authority. It's an authority that's seen in his confidence about his identity. He knows who he is. And about his mission here on earth. He knows where he's come from, where he's going back to, and what he's going to do. Perhaps we could think of another word for the most important person in the world. Perhaps not king, perhaps it's Lord or president or CEO, or each of them are inadequate, but just the activity of trying to think it out helps us to think about Jesus' authority and to see something of his majesty. So what is Jesus king of? Obviously not armies or land or gold or the GDP. Well, not primarily, anyway. I thought about some of the less visible forces that seem to govern our lives. Things like evil, corruption, and wickedness, the power of the strong over the weak. Something like illness, infection, death. And sometimes the dread that one has, the churning feeling in the stomach, nameless, but just thinking about the future. To say that Christ is king in these areas really is a profound statement. And when Christ talks about his kingdom, it's clearly in the areas of our individual lives, our relationships with each other, the future of our country and of our world, the kingdom of God not of this world, but clearly, deeply involved in this world and affecting everything that happens in it. So to affirm that Christ is King of evil, of corruption, favoritism. Christ is King of death, which is not the end, but a gateway to life. Christ is King of the future, which is in God's hands. Some of these things are easier to say on a Sunday morning than they are at, say, 3 o'clock in the morning, when sleep is interrupted by anxiety and stress. If you, like me, sometimes find yourselves gripped by worry about a situation or somebody that you care about, lying in bed worrying about it isn't going to sort it out, but it's what we do. Reminds me of that horrible, annoying saying that if worrying won't make the situation better, don't worry. True, but not terribly helpful. What is helpful is to say Christ is King. Christ is King of all those things which gnaw away inside us. And if it's difficult to believe that, and it's easier on a Sunday morning, practice now, surrounded by the company of saints. Christ is King. Affirm it, whether it's in your hymns or your prayers. Christ is enthroned on the praises of his people. Christ is King. Practice saying it now and together. And then, when you're on your own, whatever time of day or night, say it again. Christ is King.